My name is Peter Keelan and I'm the Head of Special Collections and Archives in Cardiff University Library. And our remit is to develop collections and make them available to staff and students to support the research and teaching programs in the university. Digitisation forms a part of that because digitisation makes the collections more easily accessible. And we want to make the collections as easily accessible as possible to support research and teaching. I've been a librarian and an archivist in the university sector for over 30 years. And when I first began work, computers were just being used to turn card catalogues into online catalogues. And then following that, you had the creation of databases of journal articles, indexes to journals, online catalogues for books and so on. And then the development of the internet and the World Wide Web came along in the 1990s, and that really was a revolution in access to information. What you had was a situation where people didn't have to visit you on site in the university to access information resources. They could access it online, either via the resources we provide or the resources that the commercial sector provides. So really what we've seen is an information revolution in the last couple of decades. The funding for digitalisation programs usually comes from higher education funding bodies who fund all sorts of research and teaching programs across the university sector. Some of the funding comes from independent charitable organisations who fund educational charities, and we can dip into those funds from time to time. It costs us money to digitise materials, so people can come in and use our rare books, our Victorian journals and newspapers, our map collections, our archive and manuscript collections and so on. They can come in for free and use them, read them here, do research here in the university library. If we want to put that information on the web, we have to hire staff to digitise it, we have to create metadata, cataloguing data and so on to describe it and link it all together. We have to create a website, we have to put it all on a server that has to be maintained year in, year out. So putting materials on the web, on the internet for access actually does cost money. Because we get government funding, really taxpayers' money, to do the digitisation work that we want to do related to the higher education sector, there's a requirement on us to make that available, that information available free to the public because we're using their money to digitise it. So some of our collections tend to be free, those produced by public bodies like public libraries, university libraries, archives and museums. That which is produced by the commercial sector tends to have a paywall. You have to pay to get access to the information online. It is difficult at the moment because the university sector does require access to a lot of current information, not historical information which has been digitised, but current information, current journals, e-books and so on. Now that tends to be the field of publishers in the commercial sector to produce that sort of information. So our library budget, a lot of that goes to paying commercial publishers so we can gain access to major databases to allow staff to do their research and students to access the resources they want. We have to find additional resources then if we want to digitise our materials in-house. So most of our money that we get from the government and from the university goes on purchasing commercial sources of information. Other sources of information we want to create in-house because staff or students require them. We have to find extra funding for those. So there's always that tension about how we use the funding we have and how much other funding we need to raise to make sure that we deliver the sort of information services that staff and students want for their work. We have a proposal which has been accepted to do more digitisation. We've actually scanned a whole load of material over the last year or two, and next year we propose to put all of that on a new web server and make it available from our university library website so that people can access for free the educational materials we've digitised for our staff and students here in Cardiff University. And that's the sort of thing which lots of large research university libraries are doing at the moment. The situation in the public library sector is becoming quite acute, slightly different in the university library sector. The difference between the two is that the university library sector has a very clear audience in mind for its information services. that is, the academic staff and our students. We have to support their research and teaching programmes. In the public library sector, there's a much more diverse and vague idea of what is wanted from the audiences they have to serve. And they have to provide information services from the school level right up to the pensioner level. So they have a very difficult task. Now that's made more difficult by the fact that a lot of people now are accessing information via the web. So they're not using public libraries so much. And that's one of the reasons why I think there's the trend at the moment, certainly in England, to cut back on public library funding. That's not happening at the moment in Wales, because the users of public libraries in Wales actually are going up at the moment because they're promoting their collections and their services quite well. And what you find is that the public library users can often, in poorer areas, be just those users who don't have the resources to pay for a monthly subscription to the internet, to pay for mobile phones, Kindles and so on, which give them access to e-resources. So public libraries really are a key centre in a community or in a society for the less privileged in our societies to gain access to the information highway, as it's been called. I don't think it's a case of good or bad. I think it's a case of you now have different mediums, and some people prefer one medium, some people prefer another medium. So the advent of the internet and online information resources has revolutionised the way we do all sorts of work, business, education and so on. So in that sense, it's quite good. It allows us to do a lot more. What we see historically is that the manuscript or the archive wasn't displaced by the printed book. You had the two still being produced for hundreds of years. At the moment, there are more books being printed than ever before. So the internet is not displacing totally the printed book. What it's doing is providing another medium for those who want to use that medium. There still will be people who will want to use the printed book because it has advantages in terms of being handy, convenient, portable and so on. But what we're likely to see is certain sorts of information only being available via the internet in the future, and books providing a niche market for certain classes of people who want to use information via that medium. The price then may vary. The internet price may come down, book prices may go up. Given the commercial pressures on commercial suppliers of the internet, they may well have to put their prices up in the face of competition from other internet commercial providers. It's very difficult to say what the economics are and how they'll pan out over the next few decades.